And I'm going to pin this to the top of the group so everybody can see us when we get started. And hopefully everyone will join in just a few minutes. But I'm Laura McNeil, and I am the ringleader of Instructional Design Career Academy. And this is our Tuesday night career coffee talk. I do have coffee. I don't know if I'll be able to drink it, but and we have Michelle Susar with us, and she lives in Durham, North Carolina. And I will let you introduce yourself.
Oh,
If you'd
okay.
like, or I can introduce you. I'll introduce you. Okay. Michelle has been an instructional designer, an e-learning developer for 15 years. She has a master's of education, and she specializes in training and performance development. Michelle has worked remotely for 12 years and has been both a full-time instructional designer and an independent contractor. So she brings a lot to the group tonight. And so if you have questions, please be sure and post them. We will see them if you give StreamYard permission to access your name. So basically, I'll see it come through and I can tell Susan what the questions are. But and that's StreamYard.com, I think, /Facebook. I should know this by now. But so we've talked a little bit through email, and you are a friend of a friend. Only 45 minutes, David said. I don't know, Dave. Michelle might be able to stay longer, so we'll see. But anyway, so glad to get to know you. You came highly recommended from one of my students who said, "Oh, Michelle came into another class and she was so awesome. You have to have her on." So really glad to have you here. And I'd love you to start out by just telling us what your background was before instructional design and then how you made the switch.
Yeah. So I started, I was a classroom teacher originally. And I was one of the statistics, they say that 80% of beginning teachers don't make it past their third year. That was me. I love teaching, but I did not like K-12 education. So I took the first job I could find, which was in a call center doing education sales. So, if you call the university, I didn't work for these people, but like the University of Phoenix, you get like 15 phone calls in a day wanting to talk to you about, your degree program. And I was one of those people that did that. And I'm sorry to anyone that I talked to. But I was really good at my job. And so they had an opportunity for someone to become a classroom trainer and train all the incoming, new hires. And so I was just fortunate that the HR director, right place, right time, right situation, and he took a chance on me. And so I became a trainer. Now, my title at the time was Training and Development Specialist. I had no idea what that meant. I had no idea what instructional design was. That wasn't even really in my job description.
Mm-hmm.
But over the next year or so, I had to do instructional design because we had no materials. Everything was word of mouth and everything else. So I started doing design, and this was 2005. So, we're talking massive Word documents and massive PowerPoints. E-learning was not really even a thing. Certainly not for me. But I really liked doing it because it was like, hey, I need this material. I need this job aid. I need whatever. I'm going to go create it. So fast forward a few years, and I became a training manager with a company called ACS. I think now it's called Confluent, something like that. Putting together a training program for 300 people that had to join my project. There were 6 departments, and we had to get everyone up to speed. So I spent a year designing that. And yes, I was the training manager, but I had 2 trainers and nobody to train because they were all coming later. I just had to put it all together in a year. It was a huge undertaking. And I have to say, other than the stress of life and, projects and things, I loved what I did. Because when the project went live, I missed what I did. And I was fortunate that I saw a position for a virtual instructional designer. And I applied, and they hired me, and this was all within the company. And I remember one of the account managers on the project I was training manager on, she said, "Michelle, that was the stupidest career move you could ever make."
Wow.
I was
Wow.
like, "Well, thanks. Love you too."
This is a friend. Nice.
But no, she was so wrong. Because I love what I do. I love working from home. I could easily go back to being a training manager if I want to, but I don't want to. I like what I do. And I've been doing it ever since. And I can't imagine, I just can't imagine doing anything else because it's just so much fun.
Right. Right. And so when did you kind of latch on to instructional design, like as, okay, this is a career, this is a thing, this has research behind it? And
Yeah. Well, so I did my master's. I started it when I was working in the call center as a trainer, and it kept going through my years as a training manager. And although I don't specifically focus on instructional design, I focus on performance improvement. And performance improvement is all things learning. It's all things related to, I have a learning gap or a performance gap, and what's the problem, root cause analysis, really trying to get into that, that situation. And so when I look at it, because my master's kept going while I was a training manager, it allowed me to look at the elements of design a lot more vital to longevity. Yes, it is.
yes,
Looking at design more closely when I was a training manager and looking at, because I had to talk curriculum. It wasn't just, hey, I put this job aid together. It was, okay, I've got 6 departments, 300 people. I have, standards, objectives, outcomes, all this stuff. I had to track it. And so it just really kind of made me shift gears from, the guy who can't do his job because his chair is uncomfortable, which would be a performance issue, to looking more at and having to talk the talk of instructional design to the stakeholders of the project, and not just like, trust me, I know what I'm doing. And so that, I think, was when I really got into the elements of design, and particularly like the ADDIE model, and really getting into those like Jack Phillips and all those kinds of elements of it outside of just the larger performance improvement concept.
Right, right. And I think, it's interesting. There are a couple of things. Somebody on LinkedIn today made a comment that objectives were irrelevant to, and I was like, oh gosh, I'm not even going to comment on that post right now.
You can walk away, come back later.
Walk away, come back later. And then I've made the comment before, but someone on LinkedIn had also said, I think it was Kara North, had said that she has a friend that says ADDIE should be pronounced ADDI because the E is silent often.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that, your position really speaks to starting out with those objectives that are measurable after you've done the analysis, and then bringing it back, with the evaluation.
Unfortunately, I work in the corporate world, and even with being an independent contractor, you honestly very rarely get to do high level evaluation. You might do a level 1, you might do some, of course, knowledge checks, final exams, which are always multiple choice, of course. And, and those kinds of more, lower level assessments, you never get to do ROI.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You never get to do those sorts of things. And I don't mean to be defeatist, like you never do it. It's just that when people hear instructional designer, they don't think evaluator. They think designer, developer, teacher. They don't think of standardized test person or something like that. They just don't look at that level. Can we all do it? Yes, we can, and we should at least be involved in it. But unfortunately, that is one of the part of the acronym that does go by the wayside.
Yeah, for sure. And so when did you, and that is a shame, and I've had to fight for that in my corporate position, and start to, just with baby steps, getting into that evaluation and that return on investment, so that you can actually defend that your position is relevant as an instructional designer, and that you bring value and some cost savings or efficiencies, in solving, again, the performance gaps.
And I was really fortunate that when I did do my master's degree, every course I took, by some miracle, I mean, all of the the gods must have been smiling down on me. Every course I took was relevant to where I was in my career at that time. And so I just used my job to do everything. So, talking about that project with the 300 people, I was able to do an ROI evaluation and say, listen, if you choose not to fire anyone and choose to improve their performance, as opposed to just say, you're not worth it, I'm not going to keep you, this is how much money you will save over a 5-year period. And being able to say that and do that have that experience. So anyone considering graduate work, I would definitely recommend try to make it work related as much as possible, because your company will probably appreciate it, but also it gives you as close to real world opportunities as possible.
Yeah, and I also think for the educators who are thinking about making that transition, or really anybody who's thinking about making that transition, take what something that you can do in your job right now, and then create some kind of an e-learning or a micro-learning or something that can apply.
I have mentored several people that were teachers transitioning into the design world. And just for anyone on the call, you can message me privately or what have you. I'm happy to mentor you as well. I used to be you in a way, and anything I can do to help. But yeah, and I hear people say, oh, I'm a teacher. I'm not really, I don't do all of that. And yes, you do. You do it every day when you put your lesson plans together and you do your curriculum development or whatever the elements are you do to teach those little minds. That is exactly what a designer does. We just use different terms. So you just have to switch your lingo.
Right. There's so much. If you do any kind of faculty training, project management, special events, things like that, it is so much. I think you definitely have a distinct advantage if you've been in education and want to make that leap.
I remind people frequently that they'll say, well, you're an instructional designer. And I'll say, well, I am also an adult educator. And they go, what? And I'm like, yeah, it's andragogy, that thing that we do. But they forget the very core of what we do every day is we are teaching adults how to be successful at whatever we're teaching them to do. And so I can glamorize it and say, oh, we do e-learning and all of this. Yes, we do. But bottom line, we're adult educators.
Right. Right. I mean, we have to be impactful. We have to be efficient. We have to meet them where they are in the job, give them something that they can apply right away. I think that makes such a difference. But I did laugh at your pedagogy is for kids comment.
That's one of my personal pet peeves. I see it all the time. I see companies use it and I'm like, oh.
Yeah. I know but it made me laugh. So, but talk about being a contractor. I know there's some folks on the call that are thinking about full-time jobs. There's some folks who maybe want to dip their toe into contracting, maybe while they're working full-time. How have you found it?
I love contracting. I haven't done it in a few years, mainly because I work for a financial institution and due to regulations, I would have to do a lot of reporting to them, and it's basically a pain in the neck. So I just have chosen to take a hiatus from contracting. But previous to that, I had contracted continually from 2012 until 2018. So even if I was working full time, I still had, as we say, my side gig, my side hustle, my side hustle. Contracting it's scary to some people. When I started working, I was working full time and I was working on a contract. I had a lot of hours in the day I was working, and a lot of, I got to the point my little, at the time, toddler kind of would start crying when she'd see me sit down because she thought, oh, mommy's going to work now. So I want mommy. But at the time it was a recession and I was the only one on both sides of my family, including my husband, who was working. Wow. And so for me, it was a bit of a safety net. It was like, you know what, I might lose my job today, but I've got 4 contracts I'm working on, and that sort of thing. So from that perspective, that was great. From a skills development perspective, it was irreplaceable because I started contracting when I was working for ACS still. This was when I was a remote designer with them. And I wasn't doing any e-learning. and this was 2011, 2012. And I knew that e-learning was coming. It was, you were hearing a lot about it. Some people that were really up and coming companies were talking about Captivate and this new thing called Storyline and Lectora and what, I don't know what any of these are. And I knew that my company was not going to let me do e-learning development. They were not, that our department was still doing classroom-based training. They were not interested in it. I got them to let me do some stuff in Captivate 1. What are we up to? 10 now?
Yeah.
1 back in the day. And I think it was really just a quiz. And I just knew, I was like, you know what? If I lose my job, I'm not going to be marketable. This is not going to last. And so I had a friend of mine who actually went to grad school with me. She is now the national president of the International Society for Performance Improvement, ISPI, Rose Noxon. And she called me and she said, hey, I have this contract I'm working on. Do you want to be the designer on it? And I said, do I get to do e-learning? And she said, yes. And I was like, I'm there. Let me do it. And I had to learn. I had never learned any of this stuff. I mean, the project, he called me, said, have you used Storyline before? And I said, I've never heard of it. And he said, do you think you can learn it by Monday? And I was like, well, okay.
That's what we do. That's what we do. We're like, yeah.
But had I not done that and, taken that jump, I guess. And now I did have the safety of working full time, but had I not done that, I wouldn't have learned what I learned about e-learning. I wouldn't have been able to be involved in projects at the level I was at, where I did get to do some analysis. I did get to do some evaluation and, really kind of spread my wings of not just the paper pusher behind the scenes that's aligning bullet points for a living. Although don't underestimate a good aligned bullet point, let me tell you. But I was able to say, you know what, I want to do this, I want to do that, and find contracts that allowed me to do that. I mean, everything from, one of my favorite contracts was with State Farm, and people say, what's State Farm? I mean, what's the big deal? And I said, because they do the ADDIE model correctly. I mean, beautifully. Like, it taught me, how is this supposed to be done the right way? And that's where I learned that. And had I just stayed in my full-time job, never would have learned it. So.
And so how did, how did all these different contracts come about? And I know the first one was definitely relationship based.
Yeah.
But, managing 4 at once. Yeah.
That's a lot. It was a lot. It was the most I had at once was 6, but that was, there's several ways. Networking, of course, is a big one. LinkedIn is a huge one. I don't know if they do it as much anymore. Some groups were doing it and some weren't, but groups used to have a little tab that said opportunities or job opportunities, and you could kind of find them there. There's a bunch of Slack groups. I'm in one right now that has a tab for job opportunities, and the other people in the Slack group are prolific about sharing information. It's actually kind of heartening to see how many people are just willing to say, hey, I saw this today, thought you might want to know about it. Also, when you get into the system of recruiters, I don't know how they share your name, but you get out into those systems and they always, when a job comes up, they will contact you. I haven't contracted in 2 years, and in Durham, I think it's IBM just posted for a contract instructional designer. I had 15 calls in one day. And I'm not even trying. I was like, I don't know why you think I'm in this right now. Take a hint. It's been 2 years, but
pulling you back in.
Yeah, come on back in. It's hard. I'm like, oh, that's psychic. Yeah. But you have to do things like, I have a spreadsheet of every recruiter I've ever talked to, even if I didn't work for them. And so when I was actively contracting, Dave, it's called E-Learning Heroes. It's by a lady named Patty Bryant.
Okay.
And I have this, this huge spreadsheet. And so, I just kept adding to it. And, when you have about 50 emails on there, about every time I would finish a contract or get close to the end of one, knew I was looking for something new, I would just do a blind email to that entire list with an update. Here's where I am. Here's what I'm looking for. Here's my updated resume. here you go. And,
Okay.
most of the time you hear, oh, I don't have anything, but you'll hear, oh yeah, I had something the other day. Great. Now that I know you're looking, I'll get with you or what have you. So
Right. So you were proactive about that.
yes,
That's
you do not sit on contract jobs. If you, it actually drives me insane when I'll tell somebody, hey, this guy's got a contract, and they'll say, I'll take a look at it later. And I'll say, you already lost it.
yeah.
Already
Yeah,
did.
exactly.
And
Yeah.
I know some people probably disagree with me, but I'm one of those people that if you are the first qualified resume in their inbox, you're the one they're going to talk to first, because
Gotcha.
it's not, you don't apply to contracts through a system. You do it by email. Most
Mhm.
of the time you do it directly by email. So it really is, send it as quickly as possible, and, and follow up. They're not going to, and get your portfolio ready, because they're going to want to see that. Don't
Right.
send it to them in the first email. Make them contact you. But it's like a bit of a sales thing.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
have it ready, because they're going to want it, and they're going to want it immediately.
Okay. Okay. And so let me see. So you had 4 to 6 at once, in varying, I
Mhm.
guess, numbers. But how long were the contracts? Were they 3 months, 6 months?
Yeah, I tended to take longer ones, because I mean, I have a family and, children, and it was like, I don't want to, if we didn't need my income per se, I probably would have done some of those 3 6 week ones, because they do tend to pay more because they're so short.
Mhm.
But I tend to do it was a blend of 3 months and up, and then also some other contracts that were flat rate. And those are great, because you can just, if you're a quick developer, you can just bang those things out. And the faster you do them, the more, money you make per hour, essentially.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
My favorite kind of contract was called a W-2 contract.
Yes.
Um, so for those that aren't aware, 1099 contracts are where the employer or the client cuts you a check for like $2,000. There you go. There's your money. You have to pay a lot of taxes on those.
Mhm.
It's because you're paying both employer taxes and employee taxes at the same time.
Right.
Um, it's a lot. It is what it is. But a W-2 contract is with an organization that hires you on the condition of a certain time period. You're an hourly employee, and they pay employer taxes.
Right.
So you don't get benefits or anything unless the contracting firm, the third party firm, wants to provide that. If that's what they want to do for their contractors, that's awesome. Take
Mhm.
advantage. But the bottom line is that those employer taxes are paid by the client, not you. So those are my favorites.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would agree with you. So getting yeah, Gwen asked
A
what
lot,
percentage
Gwen.
is
A
that
lot.
yeah.
um, I'm gonna go out and say it's about 30%. I might
Mhm.
be high on that. I just know that when tax season rolls around, when you're doing 1099, that's when you're talking about paying estimated quarterly taxes, things like that. So if you do go the 1099 route, good on you, but just maybe get an accountant or something, so that you can keep track of what you need to pay, because that's when people get in tax trouble, is when it's the end of a year and they've made $80,000 1099, and they have to pay taxes on all that money. So
Right. Right. Yeah. But if you're just starting out and you do want to dip your toe in there, it may be that you do take a 1099 first, and it may be
yes,
6 weeks long, and you just get that experience and get
yes,
under your belt.
absolutely. And I would say flat rate, because you have to think about all these small businesses. So you work for a small business, and they're like, look, I just need a little micro learning on new hire orientation or something. I've got $1,000. I can pay you. And you're
Right.
like, yep, I will put that together. You may have to work a little harder, may not be so much per hour, but it will help you build that, build your resume on those positions. But yeah, I think when I first started contracting, I just about didn't turn down any work.
Mhm.
I have to
Mhm.
say, pretty much, because it was just, I knew that was what I was doing. And I didn't want to say no, and then a week later go, oh crap, I don't have, I don't have a contract now. I don't have any money. I was a little afraid to turn down anything. Now, the other side of that is I was working 80 hours a week. So
Mhm.
I don't recommend that either. So you have to look at your personal situation and go, okay, how much can I afford not to work, or how much do I need to work? Are my benefits through my spouse, and then, I'm just bonus, or do I have to make this much money in order to pay my bills and everything else?
Right. And I imagine there's an ebb and a flow. So it may be that you work 80 hours one week if you have contracts overlapping, and then the next week it may be 40 hours. So
that's right. That's right. Same thing with money, because everyone pays you. Some clients have a 30-day waiting period. Some have a 90-day waiting period. That's horrible. Some pay you weekly. Some pay you, half at the beginning, half at the end. It's all, I mean, I have spreadsheets galore of keeping track of all that, because it can get crazy. And then, but if you do it, if you understand that going in, and you stay organized with it, because you are running a small business, if you think of it that way, you don't necessarily have to incorporate and all that stuff. I never did, but even if you didn't, you're still running a small business. So you just have to stay on top of all that, and don't let, those things slide, because nobody's going to go collect it for you except yourself.
Right, exactly. And so you were mentioned as kind of a resume wizard, and I don't know. I didn't. They pitched you, at Sanford, and said we have to have you on. So, bestow upon us some resume wizarding, in 5 minutes or less.
Okay. I'm sure. Yeah, I do it a lot, actually. Number one, if I have to read your resume, I'm not going to read it.
Okay.
Period. If you're using complete sentences, no. Rethink that. If you have more than 3 bullets, maybe 5 under each job description, you have too many. A recruiter that looks at a resume looks at the top third of your resume, and they decide within about 15 seconds whether or not they're going to call you. So put your sales hat on. Okay. And Laura, after this, if you want, I know I sent mine to you. You're welcome to send it out to the group if they would like to see it. Feel free. Steal whatever works for you. Really. No. Yeah. I have no ego here. The top 30 of your resume needs to be a very clear list of your skills, both your technical skills, your professional skills, and your education. Boom, boom, boom. Put it out there. No frills. Just, articulate storyline, captivate, audio recording, project management, whatever those skills are. Get those on the top third. And then your work experience comes later with those streamlined 3 to 5 bullets per job. And also less than 10 years, or 10 years or less. Anything over 10 years, well, it's not quite pre-2000s, but it's too old, y'all. It's just too old, okay?
Right. Yeah, just pop it off. I mean,
it's okay. Just rip that Band-Aid off. You'll be all right. Nobody really wants to know about the first job you had in 1997. They just don't. Unless it's a very specific job that is extremely relevant to the position you're applying for, it's not going to make or break this deal. They're going to look at the last 10 years. They're going to look at the last 5 years specifically, and they're going to look at the top 30 of your resume to see if you have the bullet pointed skills that they're looking for.
So say
was that 30 seconds or 45?
That was great. That was great. And I'm going to ask this because it's come to mind, and I know Dave and I have talked about it, and some other folks. But say you're in a related field. Say you're in graphic design, or say you're in education. You have your resume, your cover letter, your portfolio's in decent shape, but you're not in the field right now. Can you label yourself as a freelancer, or what do you do?
So let's say you're a graphic designer and you've never done any formal design work. I would probably go with, yes, put freelancer out, do that. Fine. Cause you're now a freelancer. I would maybe do one of those like graphic designer / instructional designer, kind of emphasizing I can do instructional design, but I'm currently really a graphic designer. Until you get a couple contracts under your belt and can say, okay, yeah, I'm definitely a designer now. Because I've had people do that in the past, people I've worked with that had that title because of a pay grade and put that on their LinkedIn profile. And it was really hard not to respond and say, quit cheating. You're not a designer.
Right, right, right.
I mean, it's not like it's a glorious title to have as far as you don't get a gold star for this, but
well, I've got my crown over there.
Yeah, it's just when you're communicating with recruiters, you want to communicate what you really are versus what you want to be later.
Okay. So for an educator, how might that look? And we probably should have talked about this before.
No. I was just thinking. I mean, it would really depend. I would say teacher with 30 years experience and a master's in instructional technology. So Gwen, I'm guessing you're talking about yourself. I would probably put educator, and then, you could say like educator, instructional technology. Use those terms that you have from your graduate education. And then, because an instructional technology, a person specializing in instructional technology can be a designer. It's just a term difference. And then maybe put, where you have the descriptions and stuff, put different phrases that indicate that you're a designer. Because I guarantee you, if you have 30 years experience as an educator, you are a designer. Absolutely. And by the way, I keep saying, contact me. If anyone on this call would like me to look at your profile, I'd be happy to do it. I do that a lot, and I'm perfectly happy. So find me on LinkedIn. I'm the only Michelle Susar in the entire world. So, so find me and then I'll take a look at it for you. I'd be happy to. Teacher, educator, they stop looking. Well, yes, Gwen. Teachers, I have to say the word teacher does throw recruiters. They don't like that. But I mean, you can put it on there. If you think you have the portfolio, if you think you have the work samples and you've got something on your resume to indicate how education aligns with instructional design, then yes, put it on there. Go for it. What I'm just cautioning against is people who are like, oh, I'd like to do this down the road.
Right.
But if you're prepared to discuss your skills as an instructional designer, then yeah, you can go ahead and put that on your profile. Right.
Any other resume thoughts? I am thinking
less than 2 pages or less.
Right. Right.
Dress for the job you want. Yes, as I sit here in my t-shirt and my hoodie. Yes, this is the job I want. I haven't worn office clothes in 12 years.
Everybody needs a gray shirt. Everyone.
Yeah, gray shirt.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, Dave, I do agree with you. Yes. You want to promote yourself as that, but you also don't want to get yourself in a situation where, they're asking you about the ADDIE model and you're like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't know. You want to make sure that you sound authoritative is really my point. Right. Does the bullet point rule for the resume apply to your LinkedIn profile as well? Ooh, that's a good one. No, it doesn't, because LinkedIn has an entire skills section, and you can use that to show your skills.
Right. Right. And asking for those endorsements from coworkers, from past employers, people in the group. I think that can be really powerful to build that up.
You can also put some work samples on there if you just want to have some fun. For example, backstory, but my husband and I are attempting to immigrate to another country. And so I was really bored one day and I was like, I just want to find a way to market myself a little more and show some of my skills. And, everything you do in the corporate world is covered under a confidentiality agreement. So you can't share anything. So and it can probably it's still on my profile if you look at it, is I made a job aid on the immigration process for the UK. And the ROI of hiring an instructional designer who is an immigrant as opposed to hiring someone local, and what that does for you. So of course, I had to pull in some of my ID friends and QA it and stuff, and they laughed, but then they're like, that's really cool because recruiters have a hard time describing the immigration process for the UK. So if you're going to self-educate, why not use it for some content and make yourself a job aid? So,
right. So where specifically are you thinking?
Do what?
Where specifically are you thinking?
Well, we would love to move to Scotland. However, right now the United Kingdom is incredibly snobby and won't let anybody in, right. Unless you have a job, and you can't get a job because you're not there. So we're not sure yet what we're going to do, but we were exploring the options, and unfortunately, it is very sad. But I'm hoping one day that'll change, especially with remote working and how, why would you not hire someone who has experience and talent who works remotely just because they're from another country? Like, can we work something out here?
Right. Right. Exactly. Exactly. Well, keep us updated for sure.
Yeah. And so, yeah, if there's anything, I mean, just
we had
anything
talked,
you can create to show what you would do if you
right.
had the job. I think that was some of the best career advice I ever had was from a coworker that when I was interviewing to be that trainer, I said, I've never done this before. And she said, this doesn't matter. Show them what you would do if you could. Like, this is something I would create for you. And I mean, that's what you got to do.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. And we had talked a little bit about work-life balance, and I mean, you have two little ones, and
Yeah.
and in your home office right now.
Mhm. Yes.
So you do what you have to do. But yeah, how do you manage it all?
Well, COVID aside, let's put that aside because that's been a mess and a half, and it's honestly challenged even seasoned remote workers like my husband and I, who've both been working from home for 12 years together. And yes, we're still married. It's okay. He has his office. I have mine. But pre-COVID, you have to think of working from home. It has its pros and its cons. So, if your kids are in school or what have you, get up, you get dressed, you have your routine, you go to your office, you do your work. And that's pretty normal. Like for most people, that's what you do normal day. You just don't have a commute. So you commute to your living room, which is great. But you also don't have the natural interruptions and breaks throughout the day. So you replace those with other things. So for example, I take a 20-minute walk every morning around 10:30. That's usually around my time. And I do it every single day. And it's because I don't have somebody coming over saying, hey, let's go grab coffee together. We don't have coffee breaks. So, you have to look at your working situation and say, okay, why am I so exhausted at the end of the day? Why is my head hurting? Why? Okay. Oh, wait, I don't have an ergonomic chair. I need some reading glasses. I'm not getting away from my computer. I mean, you go in a standard office and you're at your computer, even on the longest day might be eight hours. But when you're at home, you've got your work computer, you do your work, and then you jump over to Facebook, and then you're back to your work computer, and then you jump back over then, and then you go to play, World of Warcraft or something that night. And next thing you know, it's been 14 hours, and you've been staring at a 22-inch monitor for 14 hours. It's not good for the body. So you have to put up some boundaries for yourself. When I first started, I literally had to shut down my work laptop every day at 5. That was my quit time. I was like, it's done. I'm going to turn it off. At one point when I was doing all the crazy contracts, I couldn't stop checking email because it would come in and I would think, oh, just one more email. And the next thing you know, it's 2 a.m. and I'm still working. And my husband's like, my God, you're going to, pass out at the desk. So I had to go to the extreme of buying myself a tablet and creating a whole new email address to use that tablet so that I could check Facebook without being interrupted by work emails.
Right.
So you really just have to just figure out what works best for you, and don't be afraid to be weird about it. I have to wear tennis shoes every day. Shoes. The minute I get up, I put my shoes on. The last thing I do before I go to bed is take them off. I know it's weird, but psychologically, it tells my brain it's time to work. Right. So I only take them off like on the weekends and the evenings, and I am so conditioned now that my brain says, okay, well, now it's time to relax. And now you can do that. So you just have to really find out those things that work for you. And, if something isn't working right, your back is hurting, your head is hurting, your tailbone is numb, change your situation. And just be aware that working from home has different demands on your body and your mental health than being in an office does.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
It is cool to stop in the middle of the day and do a load of laundry, though. That's cool.
It is. It is so great. Or walk your dogs. So absolutely. So there's a couple questions. How important is it to be part of conferences, professional organizations?
Better than needing a helmet. Okay.
The shoes versus wearing a helmet, I think.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Oh, AECT is calling for new volunteers. So professional organizations. If I talk to my friend Rose Noxon, who's the president of ISPI, she would tell you join tomorrow. Absolutely. Don't hesitate. In fact, do it tonight when we're done with the call. Absolutely.
Do it now before we're done with the call.
Yes. So if any of you know Rose, I officially plugged ISPI. I was an ISPI member. I'm now an ATD member. Used to be ASTD. It's really where you are in your career. I've never been able to go to a conference. I would love to go to DevLearn one day. It's like on my bucket list of going to DevLearn. And I think that going to conferences like that, especially if you want to get into the newest technology, maybe just get energized about the field. I think it's a great thing to do if you can do it. I don't think that and again, I've never been to a conference, so I can't say, oh, it's a great networking opportunity because I've never been to one. So, to each your own on that one. With the professional organizations, I think that they are very useful for people that need to network on a larger scale, and that need that kind of, outlet professionally to be able to talk about things without just talking within your normal corporate circle. A lot of them have local groups that meet together. Well, I don't know what they're doing now, but they were. So for example, in Durham, there's the Durham ATD chapter. And, if I wanted to, I could go to meetings once a month or something. And sometimes they have guest speakers and things like that. So I think it's really what you need out of it. If you need that kind of community for yourself, then absolutely go for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
One question we had talked about, what do you wish you knew when you started?
No, Gwen, it's not necessary to be on your resume. Mine hasn't been on my resume forever. And sorry, Laura, could you say that one more time?
Oh, well, we've got can you please comment the name of the organizations that you mentioned?
ISPI, the International Society for Performance Improvement, and then also the Association for Talent Development, ATD. Those are the two big learning and development, performance improvement professional organizations. And, if you work for a company, many companies will pay for membership fees. Or, wait, you're all in school. You can get a discount on your membership fees.
That's true. You can get the student one.
Yeah, you can get a student membership at minimum. So don't take advantage of this. I'm not in school anymore. Take advantage.
And I think, Gwen, not necessary to have it on a resume. I really think focus on that upper third of those skills that you have and those abilities. And I don't think a recruiter necessarily, that's not going to be make or break.
Both of those organizations, though, I will say, can be a good opportunity if you are a member they have a job bank. They keep going. It's not as robust as say LinkedIn, but for a very niche field to really get into these are specific for my field. It is a good place to go.
Cool. So the question was, what do you wish you knew when you started?
So many things.
Yeah.
I really wish that I had known, because I mentioned to everyone how initially I was a classroom trainer and I really didn't know what design was. I wish that I had been able to see the bigger picture of adult education, adult learning, performance improvement, and not just focus on the classroom. Because it's not just about the classroom, and instructional design, deliverables can apply in so many different ways. And, I joke about my daughter because she knows how to make scrambled eggs because I made her a job aid. She's 9. She's made her own job aid.
I love it.
Yeah, she did. I made her a job aid. I know it's silly to talk about my kids, but I wish I had known what I was getting into, because I think I would have been a lot more excited about it. And I think I would have maybe even gone farther quicker, because I would have known how much I could do with it besides, I have to find this Word file and, make some headings and stuff. And, and that's it. So.
Yeah. And it's becoming so much more relevant. I mean, just with our new normal, I guess you could say.
Yeah. My daughter's first week of school, she had to take a standardized assessment called iReady, and the parents had to log into their computer. They had to log into a secure site, and then they had to log into iReady. And they had two different logins, and one was referred to as a single sign-on, which we all know what those are. But apparently no one did in the class, none of the parents. And so I actually jumped on the call, talked everyone through it, and then went and made her a job aid to hand out to everybody with screenshots, because I was like, this is crazy. And I said, look, I can't put you through this. I mean, if you like, let me help, please.
Yeah.
And then they were using Canvas, and one of the other teacher had a problem with the LMS and something wasn't scoring right. And so I said, hey, let me get with my people. I'll be back. I'll ask what's going on. Got her an answer, sent it to her. The whole fourth grade was so happy.
Oh gosh. And your daughter was okay with that, with mom saying, saving.
Oh yeah, they love. Yeah, my oldest asks me all the time for me to teach her what I do. Except I did that one time. I downloaded. It used to be called Go Animate. Now it's called Beyond, and I kind of digitally like threw it at her and said, here, go learn it. And 15 minutes later, she had an animation with a voiceover and all this stuff. And I was like, okay, now I can't show you anything I do. You'll be better at it than me in like tomorrow.
Wait, I'm going to subcontract you right now.
I know. I was like,
pick up another contract, you know?
Yeah. You think, I keep threatening to take her to Bring Your Child to Work Day so that she can actually, work. Cause my 6-year-old told me the other day, she said, you're not really working. Oh, really?
Yeah.
But yeah, I just think, having that scope of life, I think would have been really helpful early on.
Yeah. Yeah. So. But it is interesting to work from home. And my son has sat in on some conference calls, and I'm like, well, now you know what mom does at work all day. We talk to subject matter experts, and we try to guide them in the right direction. And I love what you said, big takeaways. Clients do not always know what they want or how best to deliver it. You are the SME in adult learning and performance improvement.
Yes, never forget that, because we do a lot. We forget that the SMEs are whoever they are kind of presented to us as higher up in the food chain. But if they could do it all, they would have already done it all. They're asking you to do it, and they're asking you to come in and say, okay, that's wonderful content, and I'm going to make sure we talk about that, but we're not going to do it the way that you want to do it, because it's not the best learning environment for the learners.
Right. So. And we sometimes say that more softly and think of lovely words to explain that to them. And sometimes it takes a little bit longer, but they usually come around.
Yeah, they do. Yes. When they show them your way of thinking, and they'll definitely come around.
Yeah. So let's see, which is more difficult to find, a corporate job or a teaching job? Okay.
Well, I'm going to be honest, right now we're in a national teacher shortage. So probably the teaching job would be easier just because of the national teacher shortage. I mean, if you teach a science or a math, you could probably just walk into a school and, they would be happy to have you. But is that what you want to do? Mm-hmm. Because if you're getting, as you say, you're getting your graduate degree in instructional design technology, right now the schools, at least I'm going to go off of my experience with Durham County, they're using instructional technology. I honestly don't think any of them know how to use instructional technology the way that they're using it, because they're trying to stand up an online learning program like a corporation would do, but none of them are necessarily specifically trained in online learning or instructional technology. I know, like, from my experience and from my whole team I work with on Ameriprise, all of them across the nation went to their school districts and said, please let us help you. We do this for a living. We will volunteer to set this up for you. And they were like, oh, we're good. We don't need you. Which I'm like, crazy. Yeah, if you want to be an instructional technologist in the public education sector, I'm not sure that would be the best route to take at this point, because not only are they not going to want to hire someone who's, in essence, a newbie in the field from their perspective, but I just don't think that would be the best route from my knowledge of it. I hope I'm wrong in other school districts, but that's just what I'm hearing from other designers and other people I know across the country.
Yeah,
As
let
far as
them
the
have the
corporate,
teaching.
yeah,
Yeah.
as far as the corporate job is concerned, yeah, there's jobs out there. I mean,
Mhm.
I was just browsing today. I just profile surf and do stuff on LinkedIn, and there's some stuff out there. And the other thing too, I just want to add, I know we're in the middle of a pandemic and we are heading into a recession if we're not in one already. I know that's a fear of everyone, and I just want to reiterate that is where contracting comes in. Because if
Mhm.
you can't get a job with a company, you can always get a contract because there's somebody out there that's, even if it's a small little bitty thing, there's always someone out there that needs some training, design, and development done.
And one of the members of the group was approached about a couple different contracts, and I think she was surprised because I mean they kind of wanted an answer right then. You know, could she do it? Could she start tomorrow?
Yep.
And it was going to be 6 weeks long.
Yep.
And I said, well, you know, if you want to get the experience, don't quit your full time job necessarily right now, but think about doing it in conjunction with that.
Yes. And like, and, you know, we talked about earlier, look at your personal situation. If, you know, when you get somebody who is doing a contract for 6 weeks, typically they're going to say, it's either going to be like a W-2 contract and you'll know that going in, of they want you to be there 8 to 5 or something. But from my experience, the majority of those smaller contracts are usually a 1099, a flat rate thing where they don't get to tell you when or where to work. So you could say, well, I'm not going to be able to touch this until 5 p.m. And that's your prerogative as an independent contractor. That they cannot tell you what to do. Literally, it's illegal for them to tell you when to log on. So, yeah, those kinds of contracts tend to work best with working full time and doing them.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So advice to the group, and I know we're bumping up against Dave. We may make it to that 1 hour, but we have to be mindful that Michelle has family.
Oh, no. They're fine. Don't worry about them. This is like me time, but professional.
Right. Oh, let's see. Advice to the group. So you had laid out portfolios, resume layout, networking, professional networks, and Slack group. So that was kind of, and we've covered, I think, all of those.
Yeah, kind of the formula. I do want to say one thing about portfolios. I've seen designers put portfolios together where it's just a bunch of PDFs and they put them on some kind of WordPress website that they put together. It's tacky. Don't do it. I'm sorry to say. I'm never impressed when I see that. Think about it as, and my portfolio is developed in Storyline. If you download their free trial, you get like 60 days free trial, and they don't watermark their stuff. So it's basically yours. So you get 60 full days to play with this program. I developed my portfolio in Storyline, and then I house it in SCORM Cloud, which is a Microsoft free LMS. Companies can pay for it, but for the individual user, you can put up to so many megabytes of data on there, and you can invite people. And I like this method because, one, it shows your potential employer what you can do in Storyline. So do all the cool stuff, all the cool little whiz bang things you want to do. It can communicate information about yourself. So it's basically like a resume. You can include some work samples if you haven't, like if they're not protected under copyright or confidentiality. You could also make some up of what you would do if you were hired. And then as a bonus, you get to show them that you know about SCORM and that you know how to publish to SCORM and you know how to upload SCORM to an LMS. So you're kind of hitting like 4 things all at once. I think those kinds of portfolios are better received than the, WordPress. I put some documents up and, just sort of show you what I did, but not really show you what I did. Go for it and show these people what you can do. Because most often when I was a contractor, and I would say corporately as well, hiring managers, they're looking for something specific. They want to see your portfolio because they want to see that you know how to use sliders and that you know how to use, just varying visuals and things like that. No, Gwen, Rise is not the same. Rise is a photo heavy, very locked down, rapid development tool for mobile devices. It's not design. You can't create anything. Like you can't say, oh, if I click that button, I want this to happen. You can't do that in Rise. You get what they tell you they will give you. You get like 5 different interactions, but it's meant to be really photo heavy. So no, not the same. You want to do something in Storyline or similar to show your creative side.
And you can have multiple projects.
You could do a work sample in Rise, right, publish it to MP4, and then put it in your Storyline. Right. That would be good. Do it that way. And that way you can have that in there, but I would not use it as your portfolio housing spot.
Okay. All right. Well, let's see. And so I will, I know your LinkedIn profile is in the group on Facebook. So they have that, and you've generously offered to look at, is it possible to see your Storyline?
Yes, it is. If you've got my name from LinkedIn, if you'll message me, I'll send you a link to it, because I can't. I don't want to like send it out because you only get 10 viewers at a time, so you have to like send it and then delete people. It's really because you only get so much because it's free. Inspired, I have not used Inspired. I can't tell you that. I'm gonna say if it's anything like Storyline or Captivate, then yes, go for it. Captivate, Gwen, if you have a license, yes, go for it. Make a course, publish it, put it in StormCloud. If you don't have a license and you use their trial version, they lock it down after 30 days. Like you cannot open it, even if you create something in it.
And one way that you could get around it, and it's clunky, but you could do a screen capture of it as you're walking through it, and so you could capture it that way, because I know some other folks have had some issues with that.
It has a lot of great features, but they really, really don't want you to share it after your trial is over. So.
They would really like you to buy it. So, okay.
Oh yeah, go for it. Yeah. And something to consider, people that are looking for contracts. I mean, my first contract I had, that very first one, I did not have the money to get a license for Storyline. So I used it for the first 60 days while working on the contract, and then used my contract fees to buy the license.
Right.
That I got half off because my husband was in grad school.
Nice. Yes. That education discount is for real. Yeah.
Yes. And don't forget, if you buy these programs, you get to write these off on your taxes. If you're an independent contractor, you're in a whole new ball game of tax deductions. So don't forget that.
Right. Okay.
Small things you have to know.
Yes. Love it. This has been amazing. I so appreciate you being here. And so thank you so much for coming to us from Durham, North Carolina.
Anyone have any other questions? I'm here. I can answer. Okay. My favorite font is Arial.
Very nice. Yeah.
The one that I hate the most is Tahoma.
Okay. We can nerd it up all night.
Yeah, I can talk shop forever.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you everybody for being here, and the recording will be on Facebook. And thank you so much, Michelle, for sharing your knowledge and just being real with us. And I've really, really enjoyed talking to you.
Yeah, it was great. I'm happy to come back again if you want me to.
Okay. All right. Don't volunteer if you don't mean it. So
I really do mean it. I really do. This is like adult interaction. Did I mention I have kids that never leave?
They're outside your door right now. Same mom.
Actually, they literally are. They made it through the actual barriers, and they're
say hello
for me to get done. But no, I don't care about them. They're fine. Well, yeah, one drawback to working remotely is you don't see other adults very often. So you take it as you can.
You have to take that walk at 10:30. So
yes.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for being here, and yes, we hope you get to Scotland someday.
Yes, fingers crossed.
Yes,
one day. So, thank you all.
Have a great night, everybody. Thanks for being here.